welcome to the first video for my new series, which is all about painting Space Marine chapters. And in this video we're going to be painting a Primera Space Marine, naturally, because we're going to be doing a Loyalist chapter, called the Angels of Redemption. So this is going to be half green, half bone. So this is going to be a really cool series that I want to do. I want this series to be covering Space Marine chapters that you don't often see get love. So likes of the sort of successor chapters, some of the sort of unknown foundings. I'll do a multiple different black chapters, so show different ways of doing black power armor. And yeah, it's going to be really cool and really fun. I've already had quite a few suggestions. There's there's Howling Griffins, there's Nova Marines. If you actually want to check out an old Nova Marine I painted in 2018, over on my Facebook page, there's one on a couple of pictures of a Nova Marine captain that I painted. I think I've had Sons of Medusa as well, which sounds quite exciting. And I think, what was the other one? Emperor's Spears, obviously because of Adam Densky Baldwin's novel that came out last year. So we're gonna start on this one. So first things first, I'll go through the palette, and my palette is as follows. So we've got, for the bone side, we've got Xandrie Bone, Screaming Skull, and Pallid Witch Flesh. And for some of the glazes and shadows later on, we're going to be using the contrast paint Skeleton Horde with some contrast medium to thin it down. I've not put that on my wet palette yet. For the green side, we've got some Abaddon Black, Caliban Green, what is this one called? I keep calling it Warp Lightning, but it's Warp Stone Glow, and Moot Green. I'll also be using a little bit of, Doombull Brown, for some glazes into the shadow areas, just to sort of enhance the green a little bit. So this is a half and half. This is a half and half scheme. So the first thing that we need to do is start with the bone, and get a nice brush, get some a Xandrie Bone in there, and get the first layer on. Obviously it's going to take a couple of coats, so what I will do is I will jump forward and get both legs base coated, and then sort of go through the initial, how to do the split and the best way of going about it. So I'll be right back. Okay, so as you can see, I've got a solid coat now on the bone, and you can see that I've painted, I've just done it rough, but the leg's all done, and I've deliberately missed this part out here. The reason why is because when we come to doing the split, I'll focus in on this bit. So what I'll do quickly though is I'll just get a couple of layers down quick. Nothing too mental. Right, so that's the bone side base coated. So for the green, now Caliban Green, I find it a funny colour to paint. So I'm obviously using Grey Sea primer for the green, and I found that if I use black it becomes far too dark. So grey I found works quite well, and we're going to go for quite a nice foresty green by the time we're finished. So again, get the green on, and you're going to need more than one coat. I'll probably say you're probably going to need at least 2 to 3, because this is quite a thin paint. Even on a grey and a white, as you can see, it's quite patchy, and the paint's not that thin, it's just a little bit of water added into it. So just be careful when you go around anywhere near the bone. And that's the biggest thing about doing these sort of the old school sort of half and half and quartered paint schemes, is you'll find that the biggest thing that you'll need to do is just generally just be careful with what you're doing around the others. I used to have an army of these in 4th edition, and one of the things that I found is back in those days we didn't have painting holders like I do now, and as you know, and because I was putting my fingers on the miniature, there was like a green stain, like a little sort of green smudge stain on the top of the backpacks, because my finger oil was transferring it onto the bone areas. So it was always looked, you know, I always had to go back over and tidy that up. Very annoying, but a rewarding army to paint nonetheless. Now for the bone, for this part here, again, this part's going to be green, and then just get on the top and just paint this half of the belt buckle. And this is the time-consuming part, because you've got to be very careful not to get the green on the bone on the other side. And then just paint the top. And I will jump forward, and we'll be right back. Had to quickly cut away there because someone was at my door. So this part here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a slightly better brush. Just put this. And essentially, I'm going to paint right down the center of the half the belt buckle. Right. Just tidy this up. Just like that. And then the same with the front here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish off the green, and then we'll show the sort of part here. All right, be right back. Okay, so let's me put all the layers and everything on. As you can see, it's quite dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, as you can see, I've put like a green line at the back, and that's basically essentially all I've done is kind of sort of worked out where the half and half is, and then drew a line down, and then I just carefully fill the sides in. Now with the new base paints like Wraithbone and Grey Seer, it's really handy, because if you do make a mistake, which I have done on the front, I can go back and sort that out. So then all we do is get that, and then strengthen the bone. Because remember, there's only one coat there. Right. I'm going to do a little bit more. But if you do make a mistake, you can just go back, and I would always try to correct the bone side rather than the green, because it's a little bit easier, as I'll show you now. So on this part of the bone, I've literally just gone a little bit too far over the edge here, so just to clean up the top with some Grey Seer, and then with some Xandrie bone, just back over the top of it. All right, so that's that. So what we now do is we'll now work on to doing the bone area, and I will get my palette moved and set up, and then I'll get right into that. All right, so one of the colours I forgot to talk about is Xandrie Dust, and that's the first colour for the shades I'm going to do, and this just adds a little bit of definition into the panels. I know you want to do, you just want to run that to the bottom of the knee pad. All right, and then into the recesses, and this just acts as the first shade, essentially. Don't worry too much about the highlights just yet, but what I would do is I would do the highlights first, the shadows first, and then the highlights. So if you want, so you've got that nice definition on the knee there. What you want to do is, if you want the definition on here, then what I would do is just thin layer a Xandrie Dust just there, and then get a damp clean brush and just feather that out. So if you don't know what feathering is, that's what feathering is there. You're basically just smoothing out that transition between the two colours. And again, just run that into the recesses there. And for the bottom of this, just a couple of coats into the bottom. And the really cool thing about this paint scheme I quite like is that because it's two distinct different colours, you can get something really cool, and it's quite fun to paint because it's not quite boring because you're doing two different things. And again, just running this into the recesses, and again here as well, because this is, if you look at this, you can see that the shadow area is going to come from here. So starting from about halfway, just do that, and then just feather it out. All right, and then you get that shadow, which you can just tidy up a little bit more, like that. Then for the leg, for the back bit, just run that in there. You can keep it quite thick, just running it up. And then the same for this, you just want to run them in here, and then like so. And then the final sort of shadowy area with the Xandrie Dust. Probably get in there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to finish the Xandrie Dust off, and then we'll come right back. Alright, so that's the Xandrie Dust done. So I've just added a little bit of a shadow here around the bottom. I'll just put the shadows and stuff in. So now what we're going to do is I've made a glaze of 1 part skeleton horde and 3 parts contrast medium, and all I want to do with that is I'm just going to just run that glaze into the sort of deeper areas. Okay, just like so, and just strengthen those shadowy areas up a bit. just like so. Right, but also what you want to do is you want to take some pure, oops, I just knocked the camera. You just want to take some pure skeleton horde, stick it on your wet palette, and just run that in the recesses. Like so. And then around the top. And because it's quite thin, it should just run straight off your brush and straight where you need it. You'll start getting that definition really showing up on your bone armor now. And it works really well with the Xandrie Dust in there. Okay, so I'm going to finish this off and then we're going to go and start the highlighting of the bone. Alright, so that's the skeleton horde in the shades. So now we want to get some highlights on this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get some Screaming Skull, and then we're going to mix in some Xandrie bone. So we've got a slightly lighter Xandrie bone, and then a little bit of water to that. And we're going to start adding some highlights. So first highlight we want to do is on the knee here. We just want to bring our highlight colour up like so. Alright, and then on the top here, there's no edge highlight in here. You're literally just bringing up the lightness, the brightness, sorry, of the uppermost parts of the model, like so. And then for this, just like before, just feather it out. You don't want it all the way up. And then for the top of the foot, just bring it and then bring it up. And then with the a damp brush, just feather it out on either side. And then again on the top of the foot. What this does is it's gonna increase the definition of the armor plates because you've got the nice shadows in there. Now you're just going to be putting some cool highlights up. So the top of the panel. Now you could cut that step out completely if you really wanted to. It really depends on the finish you want to go for. But I've also found this is really good for Deathwing Terminators as well. And just you just want this at the top, the uppermost parts. Plus it's really handy to getting rid of a couple of mistakes that you've just made. Now when we do the green side, we're going to be doing this a lot to really make that green pop. Again, just around here. Now you see this part here. Now this part is going to be in shadow a little bit, so what you can do is just sort of put a thin layer here. And then along the top part, just there. If you put a little bit of line of it next to the dark green, you'll instantly create some contrast. Okay, so the next thing we do is now we start the edge highlighting process. So we get some pure Screaming Skull, and we start edge highlighting. And just on the top of here, just want to bring that up. Now the top of this knee pad here, what I would do is just add a little spot and then just lightly with the tip of my brush just feather that spot out a bit. Just blend it in. If you want to make it a little bit brighter, just add another dot. And then edge highlight. Along the bottom. Okay, so I'm gonna finish these edge highlights and then I'll show you what it's going to look like. Alright, so that's all the bone highlighted. Looks pretty cool. So what we do now is we get some polished witch flesh, and what we want to do with this is we want to put this in the most extreme points. So the top of this knee is a perfect example. Just a little dot in the middle of that other dot. You already had, just there. And then what you want to do with the polished witch flesh is just a little line here, a little highlight, and then just a little highlight. Just at the bottom. What this will do is it'll just bring out an extreme highlight. So you just want this sort of on the points, basically. Like so. And then up here, just like that, just along the edge. Alright, and then this highlight here, just enhance that highlight there. And these ones. And on the top, see the most prominent, lightest places is where you want to put this. Alright, and that's essentially the bone. So what I'll do is I'll get all them on and then we'll come back and we'll start the green. Alright, so that is the bone armour done. And I'm pretty chuffed on how that's turned out actually. Really quite nice. Nice and smooth, nice and clean, pretty easy to do. So what we're going to do now, so I just need to top up my palette with some more Caliban green. Okay, so the first highlight on the green, what we want to do is we want to get some Caliban green and mix in some warpstone glow. You want it to be, I'd probably say 70-30 Caliban to warpstone. Have it quite thin, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be really enhancing the green. So where on the bone we work down, on the green we're working it up. Okay. You just want to get this and all of the upper areas. Don't worry too much about being neat. Essentially, what you want to do just get it on. It's quite thin paint, and if you do go in the recesses, don't worry, because we're gonna shade those down shortly once the highlighting area is done. All right, so you should start seeing a difference. Now, if people have used airbrushes, you achieve this with an airbrush quite quickly. Obviously, just using lighter layers, paint over the top. We're going to be shading down anyway, so you don't need to worry too much about neatness, but try to keep it neat anyway. Essentially what you're doing is you're painting in your highlighted areas, and you just want to smooth them out. So on the back, and like that. That's essentially what you're doing. Okay. So next, get some more green. Well, this is almost pure warpstone. And what you do is make your highlights I am covered in green paint. Yeah, just to start getting that green. So I'm going to get this done, and then we'll jump back and see how it looks. All right, so that's that on. So it's subtle, but it's there. So what we now do is we get some pure warpstone green, warp glow, and then we start edge highlighting. Now, the reason why we got these transitions in first, I am covered in green paint. Is just to sort of bring these up. And the edge highlighting. So I'm going to get all the head highlighting done and then show you the end. Okay, so that's the highlights done. So what we do now is, before we do the extreme highlight, just going to get a little bit of black and a little bit of Caliban green. Just make a greeny glaze. I just want to just add some shadows. Alright, and you can just sort of just do this to the bottom of the panels, where you're going to get most of your shadows done. And just, if you really want to, and you really want to make the green pop, what you can do, you can get some Dune Bull Brown and make a glaze out of it. And then in your deepest shadow, in your shadow areas, just glaze some Dune Bull Brown. And because it's quite a dark colour, but what it'll do is it'll enhance the green because of the reddy brownness to it. So just where you need your shadows, you can just put that in there. And it'll just make the green pop so much more. So just in here where the shadow is, just run, not too much, just a little bit, and just feather it out. As you can see, it really sort of makes it pop. You've still got that black glaze just to smooth everything out. Alright. So that's a little thing that you can do. Alright. So what we do now is we now get some moot green, just on the very blob of moot green there, just with a brush, just feather it out. And with everything else, a little line here, then start adding your final highlight, and this needs to be ultra thin. Really does need to be thin. Like so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump forward and have this shadowed, highlighted and tidied up, and then I'll show you what it looks like at the end. Alright, be right back. Hello, right, so that's all the highlights done and the shading. So as you can see, a nice vibrant green works really well with the bone. So I've just blacked out all of the areas and threw in some gold as well. So all that needs to be painted, but you can still get to sort of see what I mean. You can get some more of the red, the reddy brown in here if you really wanted to. And you could probably put some underneath here and in this sort of area here. But yeah, You can really sort of push the contrast. But I hope you really like that one. So that's the first video in the Painting Space Marine series. I'm not too sure which one will be next. If you've got any suggestions, feel free to comment below. If you want to like the page, you can head over to 8 Pointed Star Painting on Facebook and throw me a like. You can also like the YouTube channel here, and you can also ring the bell just in case YouTube starts doing their shenanigans. So yeah, hope you really like this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.